We're here on Daf Yudom and Aleph, and we're up to Amalei Ravino Rav Ashi. I guess you would count up approximately 12 lines from the bottom up. L'Rabbi Yehuda Nami Mishkachasla. Ravina is telling us that you could have a case of Imo Anusas Aviv, and she's Nesua Li'ach, and she's married to his brother. And now the Gemara is going to work this out. Igam, the Avar Vinas. Now, this is a pretty radical breakthrough in the sugya. We never saw that the Gemara was open to set up a scenario of Yibum where somebody violated the Isser Arayas and married an Erva. This is like a major breakthrough. So what's the case? Once again, we'll read the interpretation here of the Masechet. Shem Avar Aviv al Itzu Zev Nasa es Anusas Aviv. Again, we're going to Rabbi Yehuda. That Anusas Aviv has the same status as Eishes Aviv, as far as an Isser Erev is concerned. However, we have to make one very important distinction. And that is that Rabbi Yehuda derives Anusas Aviv from a ribu, from a special pasuk. And that lowers, if I could use that word, lowers the level of the Chumras Havera from a Chiv Kares down to a Chiv La. And therefore, although he violated an Isser by marrying his father's Anusa, nevertheless, that marriage is valid. Normally, when you marry an Erva, Ein Kedushin Tovsim B'chai V'Arai, so there would be no possibility of talking about Yibum, because your brother's not married to this woman. He was never married to this woman. But in the case of Anusas Aviv, who is Asura Olav, according to Rabbi Yehuda, nevertheless, it's only Chai V'Lavim, and Kedushin Tovsim B'chai V'Lavim. So he violated an Isur. Aval Ein B'Anusas Aviv, Isur Kares, ala Isur Lav Bi'alma, Ukidushav Tovs. Why? Because Chayvei Lavin, we're not holding like Rabbi Akiva. You may recall that Rabbi Akiva upgraded Chayvei Lavin to the level of an Erev, but we're not going like Rabbi Akiva. We didn't accept Rabbi Akiva. We're going like the Chachamim, and therefore Kedushin Tovsim B'Chayvei Lavin. Now, after his brother married his father's Anusa, he died, his brother died, and she falls for Yibum to the other brother. Now, me'achar shasura hi ala Yavam be'isur ervas imo, right? You recall that one brother was born from the rape situation, and the other brother married, in effect, the mother of his brother, biological mother of his brother. Is he Ptura upoteres es sarasa min hayibum umin achalitza? Now we're beginning to see a whole new light on Levi, shedding a whole new light on Levi. Levi wanted to add Anusas Aviv to the list of 15 arayos that pater up that Sarah. And Levi was assuming that our Mishnah would reflect the Shita Rabbi Yehuda, as we proved. And now we're in a bind, because if we're talking about Rabbi Yehuda, how can you add Anusas Aviv? There's no possibility that your brother was married to Anusas Aviv, which is your mother, because Anusas Aviv is also according to Rabbi Yehuda. And the answer is that Levi is going to insist that this brother married Anusas Aviv before he died, illegally. But it was a valid marriage with the Emet. The Torah recognizes that marriage. So when he dies, his wife, who is the mother of his brother, and his wife falls for Yibum to his brother, and now both of them are Pturos Min HaYibum. One because it's his mother, and the other because she's a tzara to an Arab. So this was the question that Ravina raised to Rav Ashi. Meaning, what are you telling me? That Levi, the answer to Levi's problem is that our Mishnah reflects the Shita of Yehuda, and if Anusis Aviv is impossible, that's not so. Anusis Aviv is a viable possibility if he violates. Now take a look at the word that Ravina is using here, because this word becomes like a catchphrase. It says de'i. You see that word de'i? You want to underline that. De'i of our vinas. And this is what Rav Ashi is going to respond to Ravina. We don't operate in our Mishnah with the word de'i. De'i means that if he were to violate an avera, de'i lo kitan. Amalei Rav Ashi, the Rav Kahana. And now Rav Ashi wants to say that you can even imagine a case without de'i, meaning not that he violated an Isur, but beheter. There were nesuim beheter, below de'i. So the brother that died did not violate any Isur at all. Nami mishkachas lo. And we can still come up with a case where Imo Anusas Aviv would pater up the tzara. How so? Igon Yaakov Onas Halosa. Now this is interesting, because although we're not talking about the deceased brother who sets up Yibum, but we are assuming that there was hanky-panky over here, something very severely wrong with what happened, because Yaakov had a rape situation with the wife of his son, Kalasa. He gives the example, Sarah Eshes Bino Reuven. So Reuven is the son of Yaakov. He has a wife, Sarah, and Yaakov had a rape situation with Sarah. I mean, it's like some hating place here. You know, it's very shocking when you think about it, but that's what we're talking about. Beholid mimena ben. So now we have a ben that's born from this illegitimate rape situation, Shimon, and now Shimon is the brother of Reuven. No. Just 1 second. For whole mimenu ben, right? So Yaakov was the father of Reuven, and now he has another son from Reuven's own wife, Shimon. So Shimon is a brother to Reuven. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I understand. Okay. So Shimon is the son of Sarah, who is the wife of his brother Reuven. Who makes Reuven below Banim. Probably died from heartbreak. I don't know. Anyway, so Reuven dies. The Nafla La, now his wife Sarah, falls for even Kamibra in front of her own son, because Shimon, the brother of Reuven, is the son of Sarah. Umigu de Asira, since there's no Yibum with Imo, so Rasanami Asira. So we have now a case of, 1 second, means that, right, Reuven was legitimately married to Sarah, and therefore when Reuven dies, Sarah falls for Yibum to his brother Shimon, and in that keta, in that section of the marriage and the death and the nefila for Yibum, there was no violation whatsoever. The violation was in the earlier generation of Yaakov with Sarah. Amalei Rav Kahana says And again, the implication is, so why wasn't this case, this scenario, included in the Mishnah? Second. One second, I'm sorry. I get clouded in by a thought. One second. Emo, gentlemen, can you help me straighten out directly here? Emo is not included in the Mishnah. Am I right? Is or it isn't? I forget. You have a second to check it out?
Emo's not.
It's not in the Mishnah. Okay, that's good. So now I understand the Gemara's problem, and the Gemara is asking, why isn't Emo included in the Mishnah? Amalei, so Rav Kahana responds to Rav Ashi, the Achva, the Hetera Kaman. The Mishnah is only talking about a case where there were two brothers that became brothers behetet. But the Afa Disura Lo Kaman. If the Afa came about through a Bias Avera, for example, Yaakov, who had a rape situation with Ashes Ruvain, and from that came Shimon. So Shimon is an illegitimate brother, so to speak, meaning he's a brother that came through an illegitimate relationship. That's not included in the purview of the Mishnah. And that's why the case of Ervas Imo Anusas Aviv is completely omitted, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, we could not have Anusas Aviv. And according to everyone, this scenario that we raised here could not be possible without an Isur, in which case Yaakov raped his own daughter. Now the Gemara says that Levi himself actually added a 16th category to the Mishnah, meaning Imo Anusas Av. The Afal Piken, Badka, Levi Masechet. Masechet is the Mishnah, and Badke means he did what we call Hagos, corrections and editing of the Mishnah. And when he edited the Mishnah, he added Imo Anusas Av. And even though our Mishnah is Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, we said that there's no possibility of Anusas, of Imo Anusas Av Shetiftas Sarasa, unless it would be that he married her Isur. Nevertheless, Levi is of the opinion that the E is included at Mishnah, meaning even a case where there was some sort of violation, that is going to be included in the Mishnah. In Tani Levi, Imo, we should add Imo to our Mishnah, because Pa'amim Poteres Sarasa, Pa'amim Eino Poteres Sarasa, Ketzad, Oisa Imo Nisuas Aviv, Oisa Imo Nisuas Aviv. In this case, Li'achiv me Aviv. Second, he tells you, look in Sir Beis Ayin. That's on the left side, am I right? Is that correct? On the left side of the bottom, you have that? Yes, no, maybe? What?
I don't know.
Yes.
I have that page. All right, so let me just read it to you. Yaakov Nasa es Sarah. V'yodalo es Ruven. V'chein Nasa es Rivka. V'yodalo es Shimon. So Reuven and Shimon are paternal brothers, but not maternal brothers. Meis Yaakov. V'nasa Shimon es Sarah. Okay, so that's illegitimate, am I right? Because Shimon is now marrying Ashes Aviv. And Imo Shal Ruven. V'chein Nasas Levi. Umesh Shimon, again, Shimon, who was a Rasha, I mean, he married his father's wife. Nafla Leah Ishto, Leah meaning the Tzara, with Nei Reuven. Right, so Shimon is married to two wives. He's got Sarah and he's got Leah. Sarah is the mother of Reuven. So when Shimon dies, the mother of Reuven falls to Ibon to her own son, and Shimon was married to Leah as well. She's a Tsaras Arab of Imo. So he says, Haisa Imo Nesuas Aviv, V'niseis Li'achim Me Aviv, Umes, Zuhi Imo She'ein Poteres Es. That
Marriage between Shimon
excellent. Asura Hi Imo Shel Hayavam. So again, this is the case of Nisuas of. So Nisuas of is an Isukaris. Hence, there never could have been a marriage relationship between Shimon and Sarah. So it's not that there's an afil liyibum as a result of the fact that there was a marriage to his late brother, but there was no afil to him at all. In the case of Anusas Aviv, that we said is Chayvei Lavin, that's going to be different. He says, Sharei Asura hi imo shel hayavam af al ha'achames. Right? Every case of Yibum means that the person who died, the late brother, he had a legitimate marriage, which with his death will generate Zikas Yibum. But here he didn't have a legitimate marriage with the wife of his father. May Achashalohoisa Ashes Hames, may Olam, the Ein Kedushin Toksin Bechayve Krisus, is Kishemes Russia Zeh, okay, he calls him a Russia, Eina Nofeles Klali Yibuse, Valkain Eini Oseres Es Sarasa, if you Ein Kedushin Toksin Bechayve Krisus. So Leah is the only wife that will fall for Yibum because Shimon's marriage to Leah was a valid marriage. And now we turn to Yudam and Beis. However, Hoisa Imo and Nusas Aviv. So now we're talking according to Rabbi Yehuda about Chayvei Lavin. B'niseis li achiv me Aviv umes tui ima shepotes sarasa. Because in this case, Shimon's marriage with Sarah, we said, right, was a valid marriage. And again, it was di'i, it was a violation of the Isalav, but the marriage itself is legally valid. And therefore, with his death, Sarah, together with his other wife Leah, will fall for Yibum to Reuven. Izui imo shepoteres es tzarasa. Says Levi, the afal pisha shanu chacham mishnasenu chameshes. All right, yeshlanu lahosif sheishes, and that's imo me'anusas of. Levi actually changed the language of the Mishnah because he accepted the e, meaning that the Mishnah would talk about partnering up with Sarah even in a case where there was a violation of an Issa D'Oraisa that set up the marriage, which will generate evil with the death of that husband. So I'm not going to go weiter in the Gemara. I'm just going to read the Gemara. This is just an exercise in reading. I want to really learn now the Yalkut HaBiurim. But the Gemara is going to ask the following kasha. Amalei Reish Lakish l'Rabbi Yochanan l'Levi Diyomer De'i Nami Ktani. You're opening up a floodgate that even cases where the Yibum was set up by as a result of a violation of an Isur Torah is listening. Now you've really opened it up. The mission should also include Acholetz Liyavimto Bechazar V'Kidsha Umes Below Ban. And after Chalitza, in certain circumstance, I guess he can't marry her again, but he went ahead and he married her again. So that's going to be a case where he violated an Isur. Okay, now we go back to the Yalkut, the Urim. We're on page Ayin Zayin. Now you may recall that the Marit on the bottom, the end of Ayin Zayin, had a tshuva of the Rosh. And this was a very perplexing tshuva of the Rosh. And the Marit is going to try to prove to us that the tshuva of the Rosh is a dissenting opinion vis-a-vis Tosfos. So in order to appreciate this paragraph, my recommendation is that we review, again, not the whole Tosfos, but that part of the Tosfos that's relevant to this tshuva, which is quoted by the Marit. And that's going to be the first major paragraph on the left side of this page. Meaning we're just going up 2 paragraphs. And Tosfos quotes the Yerushalmi and Gittin. And the language of the Yerushalmi is somewhat ambiguous, is somewhat, it's too abridged to really understand it, but Tosfos explains. Esev Rabbi Hananya v'Shem Rabbi Pinchas Nisnei Sheshes Reinoshim the Pochus Tzorsei. And in his question, Rabbi Hananya adds Shitas Rabbi Eliezer. So Shitas Rabbi Eliezer would be Shir Beget, which means he gave his wife a divorce, but he added Chutz Miploni. Meaning, as far as you're concerned, she's still married. Such that if he I had it before. All right. Chutz Miploni, and his brother married. I'm sorry, that's what piece of. Right, so let's say Haret Megures Meni Chutz Mi Shimon, and Reuven went ahead and married her, the brother of Shimon. When Reuven dies, then as far as Shimon is concerned, she's an H's each. And therefore, if Reuven has another wife, she will also be potter from Yibum because of Tsaras Erev. Tsaras Erev H's each. So that's why the Yerushalmi wants to add a 16th erva that patas the tzara, that's called an Eishes Ish. And the Yerushalmi answers, She'at she'es kol harayas haTorah osra lavav the Eishes Ish baila harishon hu ha'osra al hayav. Okay. So Tosfos is now going to explain the Yerushalmi. Ushyaso hi kekushas Rishona Shematzinu li ervas eishes ish hapoteres es saras b'ofen shegirsha baila arishon. And whoever the baila arishon is, you'll make up a name. Al Tanai Shelo Tinose La Yavam. So we'll call him Shimon. And Ruvain went ahead and married because she had been divorced by her husband, whoever he was. And now Ruvain dies. And the original fellow, let's give him a name. What name do they use when they go back? Menashe? What name do they use? I don't remember. Anybody remember? But they want to talk about the Nachshon. So that when this woman falls for Yibum to Shimon, she is Ashes Nachshon. Did I get that right? Yeah, because Nachshon is still alive and well. Nachshon only delivered a get to his wife, but he maintained, he held on to her as a wife with regard to Shimon. So she is an Ashes Ish vis-a-vis Shimon because she's still married to Nachshon. Ruvain marries her, dies, and now she falls for Yibum to Shimon, and she's an Ashes Ish. So why wasn't that included in the Mishnah? Because she would patra patzara, ubira terutzo kosfu. And I'm curious to see how to fit this into the words of the Yerushalmi. But ervas eishes ish lo nishnasa b'mishnah b'chlal arayis apotzes sorseya mishum she'ena domalahem lefisha isuro tolui biyad hamagarish. We're going to go back to once again Nachshon. We said. Yeah. We're going to go back to Nachshon, and he's generating the Iser Eishes Ish vis-a-vis Shimon, the Yirtzeh Yigar Shena. Okay, this is where we're going to have a conflict between Tosfos and the Tshuva of the Tosa Rosh, because Tosfos is going to explain in the Yerushalmi that Nachshon could deliver a second get below Tanai, below Shir, and remove the Erev of Eshes each vis-a-vis Shimon. Masha Enke B'Shara, this is fast forwarding. Enkach Biad Shuma Adam Latira Liyavam. So when the Erva falls for Yibum to the Yavam, no one on the face of the earth could be matir that Easter Erva. And that is true for 15 arayos. But Ashes each, in this scenario that we're describing, Nachshon has the ability to be matir, to remove the Iser Erva of Ashes each by giving her a get without a Tanai. Now I'm just thinking out loud, why does he emphasize that's before Reuven? Yeah, because we want to set this up as a unique erva that's different than all the other 15 arayas before Reuven's death. So when Reuven dies and Reuven's wife falls for Yibum to Shimon, the erva was already established from the time that Yibum became a Havavina, so to speak, meaning with the marriage of Shimon, of Reuven to this woman, it already had an erva which lends itself to be removed because Nachshon could have given a second subsequent gift. So now the Marit says that's against the Rosh. Because the Rosh says that in this very scenario where a person like Nachshon gave a get with a Tanai of Shir, Almanah said she shouldn't get married, in this case to Shimon, then if he has charata, he has a change of heart, Nachshon, and now he wants to permit his wife to marry Shimon, it's not enough to simply make a declaration of bittul tanai, forget about my tanai. That for sure you can't do, because the gerushin was a gerushin up to but not including Shimon. And not only that, he can't even give her a second get without a tanai. That's not going to work either. And therefore, Rodzalatiro Lioso Ploni, he has only one option, and he remarries his wife. We didn't give her a name, we'll call her Sarah. So Nachshon remarries Sarah and then gives her a divorce without any shiur.
And why can't well get
I think what's happening is the following, that a get has to be matir more than one person. There's no such thing as a get for one person only. Even according to Rabbi Lezer, who allows for shiur, would not allow you to give a get to be matir one person, because that's what gerushin is all about. Gerushin has to remove ishus. Ishus is relevant to the whole world. So again, the big radical chiddush of Rabbi Lezer is that you can set up a get and maintain the ishus, at least as far as one person. But the get is a get because it's matir the whole world minus that one person. So that's Rabbi Eliezer's sheep. But to give a get just simply to be matir one person, that you can't do, according to Tosa Rosh. Again, the Maritz point is that Tosas obviously didn't accept that, because the whole reason why Ervas Ashes each in Yibum is not going to pater at Sarah is because the Erev of Ashes each could be removed the very moment that he gives her a second get. The purpose of that get is just to be matir Shimon. That's all. So in my Gemara, I just underlined the three key words back in the first paragraph so that my eye would catch it, which is 3 lines up before the end of the first paragraph. V'im yirtzeh yigarshenu. Yigarshenu shuv lo t'naim. We'll add another 3 words. We don't have to be stingy. And the Rosh says no such thing. You can't deliver a get just simply to be matir one person. That's not a sefer creases. Again, I would like to believe that maybe in the original, I don't have access right now to Tosa Rosh, that he adds a few words. I don't know. So therefore, Lefi Divrei Rosh, getting back to the last paragraph on the page, Ein v'yad hamagarish la'atira kodem sheyomas achiv sharei eino yochel l'kadcha. So this is the punchline. What about the Tosa Rosh's option? If Nachshon wants to be matir his wife to Shimon, he could remarry her. Says the Rosh, he can't remarry. Why? Because now Reuven married. Yeah, but keep in mind, we want to change the nature of this erva before Yibum. Right? In other words, we have 15 arayos, and now we have a 16th erva. We're comparing that 16 to the first chunk, that 16 to the chunk of 50. And we're saying that in terms of creating a zikas yibum, there's a marriage here that cannot create a zikas yibum in event that so-and-so who's marrying so-and-so will die and has a brother, etc., etc. Why? Because, let's say Reuven is marrying the sister of Shimon's wife. So when Reuven marries the sister of Shimon's wife, in that marriage, there's already a hafkas yibum, so to speak. You follow what I mean? There's a problem with yibum because he's marrying a woman who couldn't possibly be married to Shimon in the present state of being. That's what happens in all